All right, so how everyone is doing? I hope you guys had a great weekend. So here we are back with a blank chart of euro dollar weekly time frame. So let's go over this whole picture, our full top-down view from higher time frames to the lower time frames. So now what we were talking about last week, I think you guys remember that we are on this higher time frame uptrend. So let me quickly mark all this stuff right here. All right, so we are in a clear uptrend right here. You can see that we have a very clean bullish delivery, bullish order flow here on the weekly price. Took out this buy side liquidity pool, completed this smaller buy model that we talked about. And here you can, I think, clearly see that price took out this high. We have this low resistance buy side liquidity because we have this high, very close high happen here as price is reacting to this area right here after it just took out this buy side liquidity. Our eyes are on this dealing range right here. So from weekly perspective, this is what I'm looking at personally. I think that price should eventually just keep on climbing higher. And now we have this low resistance buy side liquidity above. So I'm basically expecting for price to just keep pushing deeper into the range before we eventually see another drive to the upside. So now price, after taking out this buy side liquidity, as always, we saw a reaction right here. So what we had was this range from this low to this high, and we had equilibrium right here. So you can see that price came very close to the equilibrium, but seems like it's now rejecting this weekly bullish fair value gap and the daily bullish PD raise that we're nicely aligning with this weekly PD ray right here. So how weekly candle closed right here, how the previous week's candle closed. So where our focus goes, of course, we will determine that on the daily timeframes and lower timeframes regarding all smaller targets, because of course we are not just going to swing for 100 pip move right away, but of course this high right here and this high right here are our main draw on liquidity. So if the bullish pressure stays on the higher time frames, all that we will need is a clear alignment on the lower time frames and execution time frames. So in other words, if everything is going to be nicely aligning for us inside of this weekly candle right here, what we will be focusing on, let's say if this is a weekly candle, almost every single day we will open expecting for a bullish classic buy day to take place. So in other words, inside of one weekly candle, our focus goes inside of this weekly candle. Then we have clear stage for that week, what we focus on almost every day. Again, if lower time frames are aligning, we open up expecting for classic buy days to happen. So inside of one weekly candle, there are 5 trading days. So if this is a weekly candle again, sorry if these drawings are not very clear to you guys, but inside of this one bullish weekly candle, let's see if we are expecting a bullish weekly candle to take place. Like in this case, as we are seeing this nice bullish order flow and this nice bullish delivery, even though price didn't fully retrace into the equilibrium, you can see that it closed pretty nicely last week, rejecting this area, overlapping bullish weekly daily time frame PD raise. So inside of this bullish weekly candle, if everything aligns on the daily time frame, we will expect 5 to buy days to take place. Obviously, we are not going to get all of them. Usually we get only around 1 or 2, but this is of course trading and not every single day is a trading day. So that's important to keep in mind. All right, so here on the daily time frame, I think you guys can see that price ran low or taking out this fake low that you talked about in the last and most recent trade breakdown. I talked a lot about this whole structure and this whole delivery right here. So you can see that this low right here stopped right above the weekly equilibrium. Again, equilibrium, it's not some major level. It's not some major PD ray or something like that. In this case, you can see that price reached into overlapping weekly daily time frame PD rays. We are inside of the weekly and daily bullish order flow. You can see that price is nicely respecting bullish PD raise and seeking for buy side liquidity. It drops into bullish PD ray, seeks for buy side liquidity again. Then we had a deeper pullback. I think you guys remember that when price stops rejecting, let's say if it's following daily time frame or the flow right here rejecting bullish PD raise, At some point, it will break below one of the daily time frame PD array, and then what we do, we drop to the higher time frame. We go to a higher time frame and we identify other areas, because most likely what price will do, it will go to that weekly PD array and start following daily time frame order flow again. So this is how price moves. Price follows one lower time frame, then eventually it breaks that order flow. From that point, if on a bigger vision we are still in a clear delivery, we have clear one-sided delivery. This is, of course, when we go to higher time frames, identify clear overlapping area. In this case, you can see that we have this bullish fair value gap, this bullish weekly fair value gap. So price stopped rejecting bullish PD arrays. You can see that price fully broke below this order block right here, fully broke below these imbalanced points for the here, and it went right to the weekly fair value gap. In this case, now what we will be likely expecting, if everything aligns nicely here on the lower time frames, etc., what we will likely expect is for another bullish daily time frame order flow to kick back in again. And from that point, our eyes will go to this buy side liquidity pool right here and to this buy side liquidity pool right here. Now, for those asking when the daily time frame order flow will be confirmed, you can see that price is now switching and is trading towards this high right here. So this high on the lower time frames ran buy side liquidity into daily opposing PDRA right here. So overall, even though on the daily time frame it's not entirely visible, this is a pretty strong high. But again, strong highs get breaking when clear order flow kicks back in. So in this case, you can see that we are again trailing with the main direction. So ideal scenario, ideal case scenario, as this is Monday's candle right here, if let's say we would see price eventually dropping into this fair value gap right here, and we see a rejection, or at least some kind of reaction right here, because you can see that we have a tiny BPR here as well, bearish imbalance aligning with bullish imbalance. So from this point, if let's say Tuesday or Wednesday would form a low of the week, that would be just a perfect setting to start looking for long opportunities. But again, that doesn't have to happen, because in this case, we have all the momentum on our side. We have everything on our side. Last week, you can see that Wednesday ended up forming the low of the week. So what we will mark for ourselves is, of course, this BPR that I just talked about. And now in regards of the main draw on liquidity that we are talking about, it is this zone, this range right here. From this buy side liquidity pool to this, to the final buy side liquidity pool right here. So overall, this is a 120 pip range right here, from the first buy side liquidity pool to the final buy side liquidity pool. One thing that you must keep in mind, that usually, very often, Mondays give fake direction. So in other words, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Monday's candle right here would start shrinking and eventually dropping into this BPR right here. And at this point, once that happens, we will look for lower timeframes to align and give us a green light, basically, to start looking for potential long opportunities towards our first target right here. If that doesn't happen, and let's say clear and strong bearish momentum takes place, we see no bullish reactions, no nothing, then obviously we very simply leave the charts alone. We don't do anything unless we get some clear signs. Let's say if price sharply drops lower and rejects this BPR right here as potential resistance, then of course we can quickly cash some potential scalp opportunities towards the sell side liquidity. But this is not an ideal scenario. Again, the ideal scenario is seeing price after giving this fake Monday direction, which again can keep on going. Again, we are moving with main direction, so this wouldn't be surprising at all. But if again we are talking about the most ideal perfect scenario, this is again then Monday starts going lower, trapping some long buyers right here who are very anxious to get in, then drops into this DPR, into this fair value gap right here, takes out Friday's lows. And in this area right here, once it drops into this daily BPR, this is when we want to see lower timeframes and lastly execution timeframes to give us a green light. So in other words, we will have higher timeframe alignment, lower timeframe alignment, and execution timeframe alignment. So a green light from all angles right here to start looking for bullish lower time frame delivery, bullish lower time frame order flow that is fully 100% backed by the higher time frames. And what that gives us, price simply pushes us into a stage of day trading. And the reason why, because higher time frames and lower time frames are in nice alignment. They're moving in sync. Hence why we have ourselves a day trading environment when we actually cancel in for bigger moves and we actually can expect those 30, 40, even 50 pip type of moves to take place. However, if let's say higher timeframes and lower timeframes are not fully in sync, but just have a pretty much higher timeframe neutral stage, etc., this is of course when we have lower timeframe execution, timeframe alignment. But in this case, we are only for scalp trading approach. And this is where we are looking to bank only small, quick in and out positions. And in this case, that would be our short side, pretty much everything that's regarding downside targets right here on the lower time frame and execution time frame vision. All right, so now we are on the lower time frames. We are on the 1 hour time frame. So again, the most ideal scenario is again seeing this whole development right here becoming a buy model. And what I'm talking about is this flow right here, which wasn't ideal because we had some structures around it, making it a weak low. So that's not ideal. But again, the ideal scenario regarding the higher time frame alignment is seeing this whole delivery on the lower time frames becoming a buy model. So this high becoming an original consolidation, sell side of the curve, price took out this high right here. And what we want to see is for price to shift into the buy side of the curve. This again acting as original consolidation and as the first magnet area. So for that to happen, again, the ideal scenario is seeing price give this bigger bear trap type of a development, dropping into the daily BPR right here, confusing some traders who are looking at this development right here as a potential break below this low to look for continuations, which can happen if, again, we find ourselves at this point as price breaks lower and starts rejecting it to the downside, and they have pretty much neutral daily time frame but clear lower time frame execution time frame alignment on the downside. Then, of course, this is the situation. They will be forced to adjust and adapt and look at this development right here, this consolidation as our low for a quick continuation here. Looking for scalp trading opportunities, as I mentioned before, just quick in and out positions. But again, the ideal scenario is seeing price trap traders right here, making this look as a potential bearish continuation, a potential bearish type of a pattern. To what we actually want to see is price as it just took out this buy side liquidity right here. It go lower, take out sell side liquidity, make this a liquidity shakeout. So price taking out high, taking out low into opposing P array, and from that point, shifting into clear delivery on the lower time frames. So here we would have a smaller buy model fractal likely on the 15-minute time frame, which would happen on the buy side of the curve of a bigger 60-minute buy model. That's additional positive confluence for our view, because remember, in this case right here, we would be trading with the main higher time frame direction, and that's super important. So this is how I'm seeing everything right now. I'm not going to head into the 15-minute and execution timeframes because obviously it's Monday morning. We are only observing the market. We are marking the main higher time frame, lower time frame, draws on liquidity and stuff like that. So this is my main view. I won't be interested in any short positions unless we nicely drop below this daily time frame BPR and we come back to it right here. This would be the move for me to look for shorts. Otherwise, what I actually want to see is for price being drawn higher, being pulled higher by the buy side liquidity right here, because what we have in play is, again, this 60-minute market maker buy model. We are already in buy side of the curve after price took out Wednesday's high right here. An ideal development, again, is seeing Monday drop, Tuesday or Wednesday form low of the week right here, and from that point seeing price rally again after forming this bigger bear trap right here. And again, as mentioned, ideally creating this smaller 15-minute buy model fractal inside of a bigger 4-hour, 1-hour buy model that's again in sync with the higher time frame direction, which is to the upside. But for now, I won't be chasing the price. If it just skyrockets right to the target right here, I'm completely okay with that. I'm not in the business of chasing price. You guys know that I always wait for clear signs from price delivery. I don't blindly chase it. I want to clearly stack confluence on my side, and this is how those A+ opportunities are actually born. And let's say if it actually skyrockets, rejecting this fair value gap right here, what I would simply do once this buy model is completed, I would simply look for price to again give an actual deeper structure from where on the execution timeframes, zooming in into this area right here, I would look for execution timeframes to give all the confluences that you guys know that I'm looking for. From where, again, we would be having a higher time frame, lower time frame, execution time frame alignment, so clear day trading conditions, playing a reaction right here. If, let's say, price after taking out this buy side liquidity pool gives a bearish reaction, this is when simply, again, we stay patient, we let lower time frames to build a clear internal range, and from that point, we start pushing towards our bigger targets right here. And lastly, the main weekly drawn liquidity that we just talked about right here. So that is all for now. I hope it was insightful, and we will talk very, very soon.